Let's get into the Arkansas game a little bit, as it appears that for all my high-minded talk of it not being a trap game, it ended up being a trap game. But Jake, if you're like a bear in the woods or a fox or a human on an alien planet, what is the goal when you find yourself caught in a trap? You know what the goal is? The goal is to survive, okay? I don't care what it is. I got that bear trap on my leg. I just ain't going to die here today. That's all I'm looking to do. And that's exactly what LSU did on Saturday. They survive thanks to great defense and thanks to Harold Perkins, a.k.a. Perkules, a.k.a. Big Perk, Perk 40, the Perk, Harold M. Effin Perkins getting it done with 8 tackles, 7 pressures, 4 sacks, 4 TFLs,
Ultimately,
2 forced
Monday.com
fumbles, 2
has been
hits,
a real
1
game
hurry,
changer for our
and
business.
7
These are real people who use Monday.com.
As Cody Worship points out. And the crazy part about that is, so he had the 8 tackles, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, right? That should have been 3 forced fumbles and 5 sacks, or could have been, was about an inch away from being 3 forced fumbles and 5 sacks had old boy's arm not barely been going forward on one of those other pass rushes. An unreal day. Oh, and then just because he didn't blow you and the rest of the country away enough yesterday, on Saturday, he had the flu. Was literally throwing up before the game. And in a wonderful anecdote to make you all feel old, Brian Kelly mentioned MJ to him, in the flu game, obviously. And Harold Perkins responded with, "Who is MJ?" And look, I know he would have known Michael Jordan, right? Mm-hmm. But it's kind of wild that the youth maybe is not as automatic with the shorthand of MJ. Mar, I see you looking around very confused as to how that could be possible. But let's remember, Harold Perkins has been unreal. Harold Perkins was born in 2004, 2003? I mean, that's
2004.
Okay, so 2004. Harold Perkins was born long after MJ was done. It's just incredible how good this kid is. You could watch football your entire life, Jake, and maybe never see a defensive performance this dominant, especially on a per pass rush basis.
I really, and I said it on Twitter, I've run out of things to say about him, in superlatives to use when talking about him. It's remarkable. I mean, he graded out in the SEC as a freshman, rushing the passer this week at 94%. His grade for the year when rushing the passer is 92% in the SEC. 92%.
Oh my God.
It's I hate comparing people, but he comes off the edge, and I had to block this guy in practice every day, like Von Miller.
That bend was very Von Miller-esque.
The way he can move his body and not break speed.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. And Von's not a huge guy. Von is not Terrell Suggs or James Harrison or one of these 6'4". No, but Von's strong as hell, and he's fast, and Perk can be that. And I hate using comparables, but that's who
that bend. I mean, that bend was Von Miller, though.
It is.
That was insane.
The comparison there is it's just what he's doing at 18 years old, and also once he gets there, knowing what to do, knowing to swipe for the ball, knowing angles and knowing rush lanes and knowing your spot where you're supposed to rush. It's the spy stuff. If that was just the only thing we were talking about, that would be impressive. I mean, you're talking about
the best QB spy in the country,
and you're talking about a track star in Hornsby.
So that's what somebody in chat at Whiskey and Wine told us, that Hornsby was the anchor on the nation's leading 4x100 high school team in high school.
Yes.
So
the best
he
in the
is
country.
supposed to be faster than anybody else on the field,
and he wasn't. the one where he has to fight. He takes a little bit of an angle where he gets a little bit too far upfield, but then he fights through traffic and still hawks that guy down. The guy that anchors the 4x1 team that had the best time in the country. I've really, honestly, I've run out of things to say about him because it's just something we've never seen.
You had a great tweet this weekend comparing the Bryce Young highlight where he tried to hit him with a little jab step and Perkins got him down versus against Ole Miss.
Same,
he hits the
same.
defender with a little jab
thing.
step. Ole Miss defender gets his ankles broken, and it's a touchdown. It's the same exact situation, and yet the difference is Perk 40 or Percules. I don't know what his best nickname is. I'm kind of maybe inclined to Percules, but it doesn't matter. I'm inclined to watch this man play football. He was unreal. Now, I think let's go to break, and then when we get back, we can talk about stuff outside of Harold Perkins. I'm not promising that this conversation won't at times gravitate back towards him because of the gravitational pull that he is putting out there with his play right now. But more on how LSU won the West by beating Arkansas 13-10 on Saturday. Keep it locked right here on OTB.
Did you get as many messages as I did when it was 40 degrees at the Arkansas game and LSU's got hot chocolate, chicken broth, and coffee, and all my friends that were, I played with in Denver, live in the Northeast, are like, y'all got chicken broth and coffee and hot chocolate for 40 degrees? It's like, yeah, it's been 85 where we live.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things like where it's like, okay, y'all come down here in September, yes, and I don't want you to use like fans or something.
Exactly.
Like, okay, like relax, okay? We're hot people. It just is what it is. If we're in the heat, we get bonuses to our stats. When we're in the cold, we take negative modifiers in all of our rolls. That's just how it goes. That's old D&D talk there for you, Jake. But
definitely knew that.
So, but those for the coaches, right? You can't be drinking hot chocolate during a game. Like that's surely for the coaches and support staff. Like no players.
So I don't know. In high school,
y'all used to drink hot chocolate during the game.
Like, Dad, it's cold out here. I need a hot chocolate, man, or
what?
Something warm.
Maybe so. Maybe it's about like the sugar. I mean, you got Marshawn eating Skittles on the sideline and stuff. What about the chicken broth? That's not for the players either, huh?
Yeah, absolutely it is.
I've never had.
You never had chicken broth in a game?
No, but I mean, I never played that many cold weather games.
Yeah,
probably the coldest weather I ever played in college was Arkansas. But like before that,
I mean, I know we had chicken broth for sure on the sidelines. The coffee was the one that got me. I was like, coffee.
That's what I'm saying. All three of those things feel like stuff that players do not normally consume during the game. I feel like it's normally like maybe some Gatorade or Powerade. Excuse me. Like water or whatever. I don't know. Whatever. So I didn't get texted about that a lot, Jake, because I don't have a lot of acquaintances that would have played football in cold weather. But I did see it getting memed a lot online. I heard the weather was fantastic, though. Like, as we tell the story of this game, which we're going to do right now, I don't know. Like, do you think the weather is actually anything worth talking about?
I don't think so. I think, obviously, like the pictures we saw the night before and the morning of, my mom was at the game, and she said, no, it was cold, but it was a great day.
That's what I heard. That's
great
what
weather day. Sun was out
on the broadcast as well.
Yeah, so the pictures we saw, obviously, like I was like, oh man, oh no, because like we see snow and like I don't think it was supposed to snow, and you wonder how it's going to affect the game. I don't know. Weather to me was not a factor in this one. Was it cold? Probably, but
yeah, but not cold enough to okay. So when you look, one thing that I do like about Saturday's game, Jake, is that a good team, a good football team, a championship football team, well, this team now literally is, having won an SEC West title, a championship football team, Jake, has the ability to adapt and survive, right, to whatever the situation at hand demands. And earlier in the year, you have seen the offense need to go win you the game. Certainly look at the Alabama game. I would say the Florida game is one there where the offense had to pick the defense up a little bit. And at other times, you've had to see the defense do the same. Think about like how they did against Auburn, and then no bigger step up than what they did this Saturday against Arkansas. So I was very pleased to see one side of the ball perform so exceptionally, but it was a bit disheartening to see one side of the ball struggle as mightily as LSU did, as basically Jane Daniels had his Auburn stat line.
Yep.
Right? Was it like 85 yards against Auburn, maybe 86 on Saturday? Jake, I have not gone back and watched the film yet. I'll do that today, but it looked like Arkansas, and credit to Barry Odom, it's a classic they get paid too situation. It looked like Barry Odom was doing the same thing that LSU did to Will Rogers and Bryce Young, and that it just didn't feel like Jaden Daniels had a great feel at all for what he was seeing.
I would agree with that, and I haven't watched the tape fully either. That will be tonight. We'll have our film breakdown for you tomorrow. So there was that. The game plan was to not let number 5 beat you.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this about LSU, and it took them a minute, and we're all, probably asking the same question, like, why are we not running the ball? Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, because you were having success, and they certainly eventually got there, and that's why you had a big day. They did run
the ball a lot. It was just,
That's why you had a big day on the ground.
Yeah.
But you could tell they came in, hey, number 5 is not going to run around. He's not going to, design quarterback runs, scrambles, whatever it is. He's not going to push the ball down the field. We are not allowing that. If we get beat, it's because Josh Williams and John Emery and Noah Cain, Armani Goodwin all go out there and they beat us. Now, it did. I mean, they ran the ball very successfully and they had a big day on the ground, but that was the game plan. I don't even have to watch the tape to be able to tell you that. Like, you could tell with the way they were rushing, how they were bringing people. And this Arkansas team, for the early portion of the season, was the leading sack team in the SEC. I mean, they were one of, if not the highest in the country through, I think, 4 weeks.
Yeah. Now,
that went stale, and they found it again against LSU, unfortunately. But I'm going to go back and watch the tape just like you are. I'm hoping not to see some of the things that we saw when the offense was struggling a bit as far as open receivers, not pulling the trigger, not, staying in pockets. Although I will say this, I don't know how many clean pockets there was this weekend. Like Tennessee game, we pointed it out on tape. Arkansas was getting after you a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to chart exactly the blitzes and the coverages that they used.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it was a bit disheartening when even they were only bringing 3, they were just still getting home on some like basic twists and whatnot. What were the pass block grades for the offensive line coming out of this?
I got you right here. All right, we had Emory Jones pass protection 61%, Will Campbell 81.1, Miles Frazier 52.4, Anthony Bradford 68.5, Charles Turner 63.8, and then you had Mason Taylor at 72%. You had Josh Williams at 77%, Noah Cain at 57%.
What was Emory Jones there? Sorry,
Emory Jones was 61%.
Okay, great game out of Campbell there. That's pretty. Anytime you're breaking 80 on the PFFO line rankings, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Emory Jones had two hurries, and let's see, Charles Turner gave up 2 sacks, Bradford gave up 1, and Frazier gave up 1.
Yeah, the interior was really struggling to pass off some of those twists, like guys not following their rules. Like if you're sliding left and the man you are sliding to crosses your face, he drags you back that direction to pick up the guy that's coming to pick your hip and set up the twist. And I don't know what was going on that day, but they just weren't seeing it.
That's what's given this offensive line trouble. When it's struggled, it's been with games. It hasn't necessarily been.
But some weeks they do fine with the games, which I don't understand.
No, I know. I'm saying, but it hasn't been, hey, this defense is going to line up, they're going to straight rush, and they're just better than us.
Yeah.
Which some defenses have done. Like, I know for the Alabama game, like, they know who they have there on the edge, and they were like, look, we're going to rush our guys. We're not going to spend a lot of time using games. And LSU handled that. Games like the Tennessee game, even Florida State going back, Mississippi State even at times. The games, that's what's giving you trouble.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I just don't know what the disconnect is, though. Why some games you're passing things off beautifully and look wonderful, and other games it looks like you've never seen a tackle and twist in your entire life. 6 sacks for Arkansas in the first half alone is pretty insane. Other things that jumped out to me. I mean, okay, I guess to go back to Harold Perkins real quick. Like I said, it probably eventually would. We mentioned Harold Perkins from like a pure pass rushing standpoint, but as a spy, Jake, we've called him the best quarterback spy in the country. I think that is confirmed. But the wildest part is that, like, if and a lot of college teams have this, if you have a quarterback that you are not that is not confident in throwing the ball, but has great speed, and that's really how you've made your hay. If you have that quarterback, you don't have a quarterback if you play Harold Perkins, because you just cannot beat him with your legs. Like, he literally completely eliminates that portion of the game, and then if your guy can't throw it, they're dead in the water, which is why LSU fans should feel very happy and glad that KJ Jefferson was not in this game, because he's someone who maybe could have made you pay a bit more with his arm. Not the case with what Arkansas was bringing to bear on Saturday.
So obviously, like when you play a game and when you lose a game, it's not going to be because of one player. I understand that. But it is when you take a look at Harold Perkins and his snaps, the only two games in which he didn't play at least 20 snaps on defense, Florida State and Tennessee.
Hey, correlation doesn't always equal causation, but sometimes it does. It's not the whole reason, but it is a reason why you were not as effective.
So I'm looking, 73 snaps against Bama, 65 against Arkansas, 45 against Ole Miss, and 39 against Mississippi State. So your 4 biggest games, that's when he's played the most snaps. The games like I said, he only played 12 against Tennessee and 11 against Florida State. Now, the Florida State is his first ever game. No surprise there. But, the Tennessee game, only 12 snaps. And, look, you got beat by, 27 points. And so, obviously, one player. But that's pretty telling how impactful he is on this defense. I would have loved to seen him against Florida State, against Jordan Travis with a couple of weeks of college football under his belt.
Yeah, I agree. I think yes.
He's a guy in a game like that.
I think Travis
makes a difference.
Yes, I think that Travis in particular would have not wanted to see Perk 40 spying him. Okay, let's mention some other players in this defense, though, because it wasn't just Harold Perkins. Jake, who else do you think had a really? I got a few names, but I'll let you start. Who else do you feel like had a really solid day against the Hogs on Saturday?
I thought B.J. Ojulari had another really solid day.
Of course.
I think he continues to do exactly whatever this defense needs him to do. He's a guy that if you know him, he doesn't care who gets the headlines, and certainly Harold Perkins deserves the headlines.
Yeah.
But BJ's out there doing exactly what he has to do. I thought he had another solid game. I thought the linebackers played really well as a group. I mean, even a Greg Penn, somebody that I know I've been critical of, right? Because there's a couple times in the last couple of weeks he's gotten caught on blocks, hasn't been able to get off. I thought he made a couple of plays in this game that were huge, including one where a quarterback gets out, looks like he's headed straight for the pylon, and Greg Penn comes off a block
in the red zone
and gets the quarterback down. So I thought he had his best game.
His biggest problem is he's got to tuck his shirt in. Something about the untucked white shirt with the white jersey just makes him look kind of top heavy. And from a pure aesthetic visual standpoint, it makes him look less athletic. He's just got to tuck the shirt in. He'd look way better. But that was a massive play in the red zone.
I mean, look,
I thought Jaquelin Roy had a lot of big plays
late in the game,
in this game,
especially.
Yeah. And that's someone who has done a lot of great work. It just maybe hasn't been as great as Mekhi Wingo, but Mekhi Wingo's the highest grade interior defensive lineman in the SEC. That's fine. And Jaquelin Roy's been great all year long, and he was a critical. Really, the whole D line has just been fantastic all year long, but especially in this game, that crew is awesome.
Yeah, this is the first game that Mekhi Wingo, I think, did not grade in the 70s or higher. He was 68%, so that's still not, that's a passing grade. It's not awful by any means, but he's been so good. You've been able to count on him, so it was nice to see Jaquelin Roy kind of step up a little bit there late in the game. If you're looking at who graded out the highest, no surprise, Harold Perkins, but the guys we're talking about, B.J. Ojulari graded out second highest, right behind Harold Perkins. Tells you what kind of game he had. And then Greg Penn, again, 77%.
Wow.
Then you had Wes Weeks. Wes only played 7 snaps. And then right there, Baskerville. So the linebackers had a really big game. And Baskerville seems to not get talked about a lot. And I'm not sure why, but he's out there. And if you ask any defensive coach, I guarantee you they might say his name first.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're asking them about true total impact on the defense.
I mean, we've called him multiple times this year the heart and soul of this defense. And, yeah, he may not be the best playmaker, but from a leadership, mental, physical standpoint.
But even the playmaker stuff, though.
No, he is a playmaker. I just mean he's maybe, whatever, who is compared to somebody who's going to put up a stat line of 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, right? I mean, that just is what it is. But the point is he still is great physically. He's great mentally. He's a leader. The guys obviously love to trust him. Like I said, he is the heart and soul of a defense that has been very good this season. I was excited to see Savion Jones get a sack.
Yep.
I feel like he's put in a lot of good work this year, so it was nice to see him get home. And okay, anybody else shout out on defense, Jake, before we go to break and then come back and maybe wrap up a couple final thoughts on this game?
Let me ask you this, because we've talked about Mekhi Wingo and how much he's played. 67 snaps of the 69 again. And I'd love to ask Big Fave this on Friday. Now, I'm not trying to throw a shot at Big Fave. Like, Big Fave didn't have a workload like this, and so it's almost hard to ask anybody.
Yeah.
Like
Christian Lockhart would be the one to talk to.
And that was one game.
Yeah.
I
thought that was that whole year.
I mean,
basically.
I mean, it was one game where he played every snap. I mean, they played a ton because of injuries and different things, but I at this point, this deep into the season, like I have to imagine my man's got some wear and tear playing that position, that many snaps. You just don't see it.
Yeah.
I mean, because Jaquelin Roy played 61. I mean, he's still out there playing a ton as well. Jacobian Guillory only played 7 snaps.
He's an Iron Tiger, though, bro.
He is.
Literal Iron Tiger winner. It's surprising that Guillory only played 7 snaps. Shout out Mekhi Wingham.
I mean, the job this defense did, I know we're going to move on from the defense, the job they did against the run, make no mistake about it, Arkansas can run the football.
Yeah.
They're the leading rusher in the conference.
Yeah.
I mean, even with KJ Jefferson out, like Malik Hornsby is what? A runner. So you still had that threat. It's a different threat. Obviously, it's speed compared to size and strength, but they did a really nice job. And look, I know the offense looked bad, and I know the offense, we could sit here, we could talk about it. We are going to talk about it. We're going to break down the film, but it's okay if one of the 3 phases on your team steps up and wins the game for you.
Yeah,
exactly. That's the thing. Like when I'm out and about on Saturday afternoon and Sunday, and I was like, oh man, they really struggled. I'm like, the entire team did not struggle.
No.
The defense played outstanding.
Yeah.
The offense, yeah, they struggled. Special teams,
middling. A lot of mistakes early on, but made some critical I mean, Damian Ramos continues to be the greatest thing for this LSU special teams unit, as it seems like he's made every big kick that he's needed to this year. No, but Jake, I mean, your point stands. It's a 3-phase game during the season. These ebbs and flows happen where a different phase has to step up. You don't want to be all in on one phase and need to be good every time. And I still have faith in this LSU offense. Like, I mean, they've done so much good over the past month. There is no reason to bail after this one. Credit Barry Odom, putting together a great plan.